We are getting ready to get started, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we are here. We are getting started. We've finally made it to the live stream. So if you saw the post from earlier, then you'd know that this live stream was supposed to start at 5 fucking p.m. Eastern. What time is it now? Oh wait, hold on. I just got a call, guys. One. Okay, we are back. Gotta, of course, we get the stream up and operating, and what does that mean? That means someone's gonna call me right as the stream starts running. So that's just fantastic. Okay, we are back. Our audio is good. Audio is good. Audio is working. We are clean. Everybody, welcome to the stream. This stream was supposed to start at 5 p.m. Eastern time, right? It is now 6 p.m. Eastern. I get on. First, I try. I try to launch the stream as normal. Everything's great. Rumble Studio crashes, apparently, ruins all of the promotion I did for the stream. Every post that was already up and active, ruined. Now they're being directed to a stream that doesn't exist. Fuck that shit. First off, I just want to get that out of the way. I have been pissed. I was pissed the last hour trying to get this done. Luckily, I was able to. I literally had to reboot everything. Every single thing running here, I had to try 6 different streams until I finally got to the stream that we're sitting at here enjoying together at this very moment. All to talks about some Iranian history. It's going to take me a second to relax because Rumble Studio has immeasurably pissed me off today. I worked hard. I prepped for this stream. I was ready. I promoted it. It was good to go. And then we just get fucking cooked. Cooked. Absolutely cooked. I couldn't believe it. Of course I was upset, but what am I going to do? So it's 6:03 right now. I'm going to give myself until 6:05 to get over this fully. And looks like that gives us 2 minutes. I'm going to do a quick check over here in case anybody's coming in to hop over to the stream. I'm going to wait up for them on that. This has been what been playing in my head ever since the stream failed. That's all I've been thinking about. I just go boom, boxla. Deep breath, reassess, resituate myself, prepare for a good stream, and let's just get it going. You know what? We're here to talk today about some Iranian history. I'm gonna stop meddling on the past here on these bullshit streams that fuck me over on Rumble Studio. I love you, Rumble. Still, I love Rumble Wallet. Clearly, Rumble Studio happens to give me issues every single time I log on it. You know, who knows? But nevertheless, we're gonna move along. We're scooting it. We got the stream up and running. I believe we should be pretty chill. If there's anybody in chat, say what's up. I'd love to hear from you. If not, then of course I'm gonna leave this stream on as a VOD so you can come back and look at it together. Now, let's take a quick look back before we go on to Iran. Let's take a look at yesterday. Yesterday, we wake up to Trump saying he's going to wipe out an entire civilization at 8 p.m. Eastern, talking about Iran, of course. Now, me being me, I immediately made a video. Not only was this the dumbest, most embarrassing fucking tweet or post or truth or whatever you want to call it of all time, it was a full bluff. Everybody knew it. I said in the video there was some backroom negotiations here. I, for one, thought that it was going to be a full peace sort of plan, like that was enough to get Iran to fully back off. Clearly, no, it wasn't. But it was a bullshit post, as usual, from Mr. President himself. Now, uh, not this morning, but last night, 90 minutes before the deadline, we get word where President Trump's like, "Oh, Iran and Pakistan were bowing at my knees, crying to me, wanting me to, begging me to hold off on bombing Iran. So I did 2 weeks." First of all, if that was the case, you don't give them 2 weeks, you give them 2 days, 48 hours. But no, that's not good enough. Um, all this to say, I'm fucking sick and tired of the political theater, of the fucking garbage we live in. Every single headline, every single talking point, every single conversation is bullshit. I fucking hate it. I hate it. That's why when I'm making these videos and I'm doing these streams, I want to focus on real history. I want to focus on facts, not that our fucking president is spewing bullshit, straight up bullshit, saying, "I'm going to destroy an entire civilization tonight." And we don't even have to wait for the deadline to come, but we already know it's bullshit. It's insane. Fucking nuts. Fucking nuts. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But with Iran so heavily in the news, Iran is an over 5,000-year-old entity. they There's a lot in there. I'm gonna read through it, obviously. We're gonna learn a lot. I'm gonna show you a lot. But a lot of people are so quick to jump on Iran, jump this and that. Iran has gone through so many ebbs and flows. Their fucking country was up here. It's been down here. It's been demolished. Like, they've been through it all. They've been through it all. So I'm excited to talk about Iran with you. We're going to jump right into it. I have some pictures to come up throughout the dialogue. But without further ado, we're just going to jump in and do today's historical research quest, which is the history of Iran. Okay, so let's get this started nice and guten Tag. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I just want to make sure I'm at the right thing. Open up all the picturas. All right, so hey everybody. Let me make sure the studio is running chill. Yeah, we're good. Welcome back to another historical research quest stream. Today, we're taking a pretty in-depth dive into the full history of Iran, one of the oldest and most influential civilizations on Earth. And we're going to trace the story from the ancient Persian empires that dominated much of the known world, all the way through the centuries of cultural richness, foreign pressures, and into the modern era with its dramatic political shifts. Specifically, we're going to spend time on how Iran experienced moments of real democratic opening and relative social freedom, especially to push, especially the push to nationalize its oil in the early 1950s and the prosperous cosmopolitan feel out of the 1970s, and how those developments, combined with internal tensions and external interference, eventually led to the 1979 Islamic Revolution and the establishment of the Islamic Republic that governs the country today. This isn't just a list of dates and like kings. No, we're not fucking lame. We're not losers like that. It's a story about identity, power, religion, economics, and the repeated struggles of the Iranian people against both authoritarian rule at home and meddling from outside powers. Iran has completely reinvented itself multiple times, showing incredible resilience through invasions, revolutions, and modernization drives. It's a really, really interesting area. It really is. We're going to move chronologically so that everything connects. The ancient foundations that still shape national pride, the rise of the modern Pahlavi state, the oil nationalization drama, and the 1953 coup. The ambitions, but There was also the ambitions and the flawed white revolution of the 1970s boom that we're going to go over, the explosive 1979 revolution, and the long decades of the Islamic Republic with its wars and reforms, and finally, the ongoing challenges right up to today, April 2026. Now, this is going to be a long, immersive journey, so settle in a little bit. I don't know how long we're going to go. It could go up to an hour of just straight talking, maybe a little more with the images and such. But grab a drink, take some snacks, and feel free to pause the stream if you need to do it. I know if I was watching, I probably would have to as well. I'll point out when we switch visuals so you can take them in better. And let's begin with the roots of this remarkable civilization. So I'm going to bring up the first image here, and it's going to get us set and ready. Here we go. We're going to move me over here. And this is sort of the format that we're going to be running with today. I'm going to have the images up here on the right. I'm going to be over here on the left, and I'm going to be talking. I'm going to be telling you guys the history of Iran from start to now, semi-start. But what I can tell you is that this is going to be in depth. It's going to be a lot of very good information, and who knows, it might help you develop your opinion or see things differently in the modern age when it comes to not only the conflict we're in with Iran as the United States, but just as Iran as itself as it exists today. So let's get right into it. Here we go. Iran's recorded history stretches back, like I said, well over 5,000 years, with early urban settlements and complex societies like the Elamites in the southwest laying important groundwork. But the era that still fuels Iranian national pride today really begins around 500 BCE. Now that's when Cyrus the Great unified the Persian tribes and founded the Achaemenid. 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 All right. It's spelled Achaemenid. Achaemenid. A- Achaemenid. There we go. Achaemenid Empire, the first of the great Persian superpowers. So the Achaemenid Empire is the first of the great Persian superpowers. Cyrus was an extraordinary conqueror and ruler. In a relatively short amount of time, he defeated the Median Kingdom, took Lydia and Asia Minor, and captured the mighty Babylonian Empire. What made him stand out wasn't just military success, it was his approach to govern a vast, multicultural territory that stretched from the Mediterranean Sea all the way to the Indus Valley in present day Pakistan. Okay. He allowed conquered peoples to keep their local customs, languages, religions, rather than forcing Persian ways on everyone. And the famous Cyrus Cylinder, often described as an early human rights charter, records his policies of restoring temples and freeing captives, including the Jews who had been exiled in Babylon. So you see, this was a very inclusive leadership style we're talking about here in early Iran. Very inclusive. Everybody was allowed to be their own person, but it was just a border along the outside with freedom within, and that is very respectable and very similar to a lot of things we see out of the West today. His successor, Darius the First, took the empire to its greatest height, though. He organized the administration into satrapies, which are provinces governed by satraps who collected taxes but operated with a fair degree of local autonomy. Okay. Darius built the Royal Road, which was a sophisticated highway system over 1,500 miles long that allowed rapid communication and trade across the empire, along with an early postal service, which was also included. Like, look at how advanced that was all the way back then. He also constructed the magnificent ceremonial capital at Persepolis, with its grand palaces, staircases covered in intricate relief showing tribute bearers from every corner of the empire, and a huge audience halls that symbolize Persian power and diversity. Now, Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, became influential during this period. Its ideas about the cosmic struggle between good and evil, a final judgment, and ethical living would later echo in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The Achaemenids were generally tolerant, which helped people hold their huge territory together, which helped hold their huge territory together for 2 centuries. Of course, no empire lasts forever, though, because in 330 BCE, Alexander the Great, Macedon, defeated the Achaemenid king Burned. the Achaemenid king, and burned Persepolis, ending that chapter of history. But Persian culture didn't disappear. It revived under the Parthian Empire, which successfully resisted Roman expansion for centuries, and then reached another peak under the Sassanid Empire from 224 to 651 CE. See, the Sassanids were great rivals to the Byzantine Romans, with impressive advances in medicine, astronomy, philosophy, and even games like chess. Now, Zoroastrianism was the state religion, but they tolerated significant Christian and Jewish communities. Once again, you're seeing here, even in this second era of history, you're seeing a very tolerant environment, especially when it comes to the religion, the languages, the styles, that sort of thing. But everything changed dramatically in the 7th century when Arab Muslim armies defeated the Sassanids at the Battle of Qadisiyah in 636 CE and fully conquered Iran by 651. Over the following centuries, most Iranians gradually converted to Islam, but they preserved their Persian language and many pre Islamic cultural traditions. During the Abbasid Caliphate, with its capital in Baghdad, Persian scholars, poets, and scientists played a central role in Islamic Golden Age. Think of giants like Avicenna in medicine and philosophy, or AI Khwarizmi, whose work gave us the word algorithm. Later waves of invasion, especially the devastating Mongol conquests of the 13th century under Genghis Khan and his successors, destroyed cities and killed millions, but Iran eventually recovered. This is going to be a common theme here, okay? Because Iran stay recovering. The Safavid dynasty, which rose in 1501, was a turning point. They established Shia Islam as the official state religion, which fundamentally distinguished Iran from its Sunni Ottoman and Arab neighbors. And it helped forge a distinct Iranian Shia identity that still matters enormously today. Shah Abbas the Great turned Isfahan into one of the most beautiful cities in the world with its mosques, bridges, and squares. And by the 19th century, under the weak Qajar dynasty, Iran found itself squeezed between the expanding Russian and British empires in what historians call the Great Game. Foreign concessions for trade, tobacco, and eventually oil created huge resentment among merchants, selrics, and intellectuals. But this pressure held spark the 1906 constitutional revolution, which forced the Kahar Shah to accept a parliament called the Malis, and a constitution as well that limited royal power for the first time. It was an imperfect and short lived experiment, but it planted the seeds to modern Iranian constitutionalism and nationalism. All right. So, here in this image to the right here, what you're looking at is the Achaemenid Persian Empire map at its peak, Cyrus Darius. All right. So, this is sort of what that's looking like. But now we move on to the image of the Persepolis ruins, which is the Achaemenid Empire, another Achaemenid Empire historical photo. This is the Persepolis ruins. The chaos and weakness of the late Kahar period set the stage for a strong man to, come up and take charge. In 1921, a Cossack brigade officer named Reza Khan, with some British encouragement, carried out a successful coup in Tehran. He quickly became prime minister, consolidated power, and in 1925 deposed the last Kahar ruler to crown himself Reza Shah Pahlavi, founding a new dynasty. Reza Shah was determined to drag Iran into the modern world. Whether Iranians liked it or not, he built the Trans-Iranian Railway, constructed roads and factories, created a modern conscript army, and established a centralized bureaucracy that founded Tehran University and pushed for Western-style dress codes. So here in this 1925 region, you're looking at a press where it's beginning to build up into a Western outlook. That's what it's looking like here in Iran. All right. One of his most controversial moves was banning the traditional veil chador for women in public in 1936, which he saw as a symbol of backwardsness. All right. In 1935, he officially changed the country's international name from Persia to Iran to emphasize its ancient Aryan roots and broader identity. His rule was authoritarian. He crushed opposition, exiled imprisoned critics, and clashed with the Shia clergy. but many credit him with laying the foundations of a modern state and pulling Iran out of centuries of decline. So that turnaround came with this guy, but he was authoritarian and was a crushing, very crushing to his opposition. World War II brought a sudden end to his reign, though. Iran declared neutrality, but its strategic location in oil made it absolutely vital. In 1941, Britain and the Soviet Union invaded to secure supply routes to the USSR and protect oil fields. They forced Reza Shah to abdicate in favor of his 21-year-old son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The young Shah started his rule in a very weakened position, obviously, with the war going on, and parliament and political parties were gaining more influence in the immediate post war years. So here are those ruins that you can see. But now the next image that I'm going to bring up, this is the Reza Shah Pahlavi Reza Shah Pahlavi trans Iranian railway construction in the 1930s. So at this point, he was just getting out of power. And this sort of shows you that stint of industrialized or Iranian industrialization, I guess, in a word, that was coming from Reza Shah. All right. This was coming because he was determined to drag Iran into a modern world. But after World War II, Iran entered a period of. Oh, wait, hold on. I just want to make sure no one's in chat. Yeah, we're all good. After World War II, Iran entered a period of genuine parliamentary politics under its constitutional monarchy. The Malis, which was the parliament, and the office of prime minister gained real power alongside the Shah. But the biggest issue dominating national life was oil. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, AIOC, later part of BP, had controlled Iran's massive oil resources since 1908. Iran received only a tiny share of the profits, while Britain reaped enormous benefits, refining the oil at Abadan and shipping it around the world. By the late 1940s, Iranian nationalists across the political spectrum demanded a fairer deal or outright nationalization. Imagine this. I mean, they're fucking purely profiting off your oil. So Iran was like, yo, we're either going to get hooked up with a better deal or we are nationalizing this oil, buddy. Now, this is when you enter Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh, a highly respected secular nationalist, lawyer, and leader of the National Front Coalition. In 1951, the Malis voted overwhelmingly to nationalize the oil industry, and Mossadegh was appointed prime minister. Remember, this is 1951 when Iran starts they vote to nationalize oil. The move was wildly popular with ordinary Iranians who saw it as a final step in throwing off foreign domination and reclaiming sovereignty over the natural resources. Mossadegh envisioned a true constitutional monarchy where the Shah would reign symbolically, but the elected government would actually rule. See, Britain reacted furiously to this nationalization vote of oil because they were reaping all the benefits off it, right? So they imposed a worldwide embargo on Iranian oil, froze Iranian assets, and took the class to the International Court of Justice, which ruled in Iran's favor on some points but couldn't force sales. So the Abadan refinery, then the largest in the world, had to shut down. Iran's economy went into freefall, unemployment soared, inflation hit hard, and the government revenues dried up. Mossadegh responded by taking emergency powers, holding a referendum to dissolve parliament, and cracking down on opponents, including some communists from the Tedu party and conservative clerics. Look at this. In 1951, Iran is at the absolute fucking peak of its existence. They want to move into a look at that. Fuck. They want to completely move over. Let me restart here. Think about this. In 1951, Iran is absolutely at its peak. They want to move towards a constitutional monarchy. They fucking want to put their oil. They're demanding a better deal on oil because listen, Britain's reaping all the benefits off of their oil. Either they get a better deal or they're going to nationalize it. Then in 1951, Iran actually votes to nationalize their oil, which is great. It's everything they want to do. Move to a constitutional monarchy, nationalize their oil, become a true free state, and empower their people. But you know what? Britain's not going to let this oil nationalization thing go so easily. So right as they're at that peak and everything's going so well from Iran, Britain rips it from them. They destroy them with a worldwide embargo on Iranian oil. In such a short period of time, Iran went from the peak of its existence to back to square one as a shitter. Like, talk about literally. All right, done with the jokes. But you see what I'm saying? They were at the top and then they got cooked. The United States and Britain grew alarmed. They feared that economic collapse could push Iran toward the Soviet Union because remember, Britain and the US don't want Iran to completely collapse. They just want Iran to be weak enough so they could attack, right? Not attack, but hold power over them. But if they're too weak and they collapse, then they run to the Soviet Union during the height of the Cold War in August 1953. The CIA, Operation Ajax, and British M16 orchestrated a coup. They bribed military officers, paid crowds to demonstrate, spread propaganda labeling Mossadegh a communist sympathizer, and eventually succeeded on the second attempt. Mossadegh was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 3 years in prison following by house arrest until his death in 1967. Dozens to hundreds died in the street clashes. So first, Britain rips Iran down to the lowest of lows once it was at its peak over oil nationalization. And then the United States and Britain together absolutely destroy the government, destroy the power and the leadership structure in Iran following that. Just so they don't go to the Soviet Union. First you take their oil, then you take their heart and soul, which is their government, and they're left with absolutely nothing. The Shah, who had briefly fled the country, returned with much greater power. A new international oil consortium was formed that gave Western companies the majority stake, though Iran's share of revenues increased significantly. So, from point A to point Z, they jumped from point A to point G and back to point A to B, and now they ended up at G, but with a lot more roughness than was necessary. All right. Western companies got the majority stake of the oil, but luckily, Iran's share of revenues increased significantly. So they got a little, after doing so fucking much, Iran got a little bit. It's also on them because they could have chilled out and just waited out for a better deal, but they didn't. So this isn't just everyone ripped on Iran. No, Iran initiated it. Iran initiated it by saying, "Hey, Britain, we're not putting up with you taking all our oil money." And Iran just came back stronger. So when I say they ripped them from top to bottom, I don't mean they were wrong to do that. I don't mean they were right to do that. I'm just telling you what happened. Okay? Power, baby, power. That's how it works. The 1953 coup effectively ended Iran's most open democratic experiment of the 20th century and left a deep legacy of distrust toward the United States and Britain that would resurface powerfully decades later. Historians still debate the exact mix of oil interest versus genuine Cold War fears, but the event remains a pivotal turning point. Clearly, clearly, right? Now we move on to our next image here, which is Mohammed Mossadegh in 1951, oil nationalization portrait of the speech. So this was something like that, something like that, something like that, something about that. Moving on, strengthened by American support and growing oil income, the Shah launched the White Revolution in 1963. This was a sweeping top-down modernization program designed to create a loyal middle class and prevent a communist or clerical-led red revolution. Key elements include breaking up large feudal estates and redistributing land to peasants, granting women the right to vote and run for office, establishing literacy corps to teach reading in rural villages, introducing profit sharing for factory workers, nationalizing forests and pastures, and building schools, roads, and health clinics across the country. So here, starting in 1963, you're looking at another push forward for the Iranian population. The results in the 1970s were spectacular, like literally spectacular. Global oil prices skyrocketed after the 1973 OPEC embargo. Iran's economy grew at double-digit rates for years. Tehran transformed with modern skyscrapers. Universities expanded rapidly. Factories produced cars and steel. Per capita income rose dramatically. Literacy rates jumped from around 26% in the early 1960s to over 50% by the late 1970s in Iran. Rural health improved, life expectancy increased, and millions of Iranians moved into the growing urban middle class. In 1970s, no matter what anybody's telling you, Iran was popping. People looked hot, people were getting smarter, there was equal distribution of resources relatively. Everyone had an opportunity. This is looking like some good democracy right here. All right. In the major cities, especially Tehran, daily life for many felt fucking remarkable. Okay. It felt remarkably open and cosmopolitan by Middle Eastern standards. Women attended universities in large numbers, entered professions like teaching and medicine, and could be seen in Western style clothing, like you can see in the image here. Miniskirts, jeans, makeup in the streets, offices, and nightclubs. There were discos, cinemas showing international films, bustling cafes, and a vibrant consumer culture with imported goods. Many Iranians who lived through that era still speak nostalgically about the sense of progress, opportunity, and social freedom that they got to experience, at least in the urban areas. Once again, no matter what anybody tells you, in the 1970s, Iran was popping. That was the place to be free, to be happy, to have opportunity, to have a relative level of equality. It was just, that's the place to be. That's the place to be. It's like what the woke left. It's like what the woke left wanted it to be like here. That's what the woke left wanted. Instead, they turned it into blip, garbo, garbo. But in the 1970s, Iran was popping, man. Look at this. Look at it. But all good things must come to an end. This golden age had serious dark sides too. Politically, the Shah ruled as an absolute monarch. Opposition parties were banned or tightly controlled. Elections were manipulated, and the Savak secret police, trained with help from the United States and Israel, monitored, arrested, and sometimes tortured critics from the left, nationalists and Islamists alike. You know what this is to me? Sure, there were the dark sides. There was the problem, but they were trying to protect the peace that they had cultivated here. If you read this aloud to a bunch of people 10 years ago, 5 years ago, oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. You read this paragraph that I just read to you right here to people now. You know how starkly similar to that is to what we're going through today? We're talking Minnesota, all the news. People fucking taking over American cities and wreaking havoc. That's what they were worried about then too. Corruption became widespread. Hey, here's a fact. In the best run areas, corruption is widespread, bro. Corruption became widespread, especially among the loyal family and connected elites who siphoned off oil wealth. Rapid modernization created huge inequality. While Tehran boomed, many rural migrants lived in urban slums. The breakneck pace of westernization offended conservative religious sensibilities and the traditional bazaar merchants. Inflations and housing shortages in the mid to late 1970s added fuel to the growing discontent, and the Shah dismissed critics as either communist agitators or reactionary mullahs refusing to make meaningful political reforms. These underlying tensions would soon erupt. What I just told you sounds terrifyingly similar to what we are experiencing today in the United States. It feels like our underlying tensions are going to erupt soon. And in the late 1970s, after this beautiful run that Iran had, we're going to jump into what exactly happened there. All right. So let's talk about it. By 1978, a combination of economic grievances, political repression, and cultural backlash created a perfect storm. It started with a government newspaper article that insulted the exiled Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who had been denouncing the Shah since the 1960s as a corrupt American puppet. When theology students in Qom protested, security forces killed several, triggering the traditional 40-day mourning cycle that kept protests going month after fucking month. The Cinema Rex fire in Abadan, which killed hundreds and was widely, though later disputed, blamed on the Savak, which was the police force at the time, further inflamed anger. On Black Friday, September 8th, 1978, troops opened fire on massive crowds in Tehran, killing dozens to hundreds, depending on the account. From there, the movement snowballed. Millions marched in cities across the country, chanting religious and nationalist slogans. Oil workers went on strike, crippling the economy. The Shah tried concessions, appointing moderate governments, promising reforms, even apologizing on television, but it was a little too late, buddy. Too little, too late. The military eventually refused to carry out mass slaughter of its own people. Then on January 16, 1979, the Shah and his family fled into exile. On February 1st, Ayatollah Khomeini returned from exile in France to a hero's welcome by millions at Tehran's airport. After 10 days of street fighting, here we go. Oh, yeah. After 10 days of street fighting, the monarchy collapsed on February 11th. A nationwide referendum in April approved the creation of an Islamic Republic with overwhelming support. Khomeini's concept of velayat-i faqih, governance by the most qualified Islamic jurists, became the cornerstone of the new system, giving the supreme leader ultimate authority over elected institutions. The revolution quickly radicalized, though. Moderate figures like Prime Minister Mehdi Bazargan were sidelined. Revolutionary committees and the new Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps enforced strict Islamic morality. Women's rights were rolled back with mandatory hijab. Leftist liberals and ethnic minorities faced purges. The November 1979 seizure of the U.S. Embassy and the 444-day hostage crisis humiliated America and cemented the revolution's anti-imperialist, anti-Western character. What had begun as a broad coalition against the Shah became a consolidated theocratic state. Now, I don't know if you're picking up on this as well, but Iran seems to get ahead of itself really fast. In history, it seems like it really wants to achieve an end goal and it rushes to that, which allows you to build no base and no structure, allowing you to be easily wiped out by internal or external parties. But it seems like Iran's favorite thing is to rush to the prize, run to the prize, run to what we want to achieve. And it results in a quick gain, but a quick fall, sort of like meme coins. You can gain really fast, but one bad move and you can be rug pulled to zero. And that seems to be a very common theme here in Iran's history, in Iran's long, long history. Okay. But yeah. So now moving on, we come over here to by 1978, a combination of economic grievances, political repression, and cultural backlash created a perfect storm. It started with a government newspaper article that uh, yeah. Wait, hold on. Yeah. All right. So the new Islamic Republic faced immediate challenges. In September 1980, Saddam Hussein's Iraq invaded, launching the devastating 8-year Iran-Iraq War. Iran suffered enormous casualties. Estimates run from several hundred thousand to over 1 million dead or wounded, and faced chemical weapon attacks. Khomeini called the war blessed and rejected peace offers until 1988, when a UN ceasefire finally ended the stalemate. The war strengthened the Revolutionary Guards and deepened the regime's side, siege mentality. The regime side siege mentality. Khomeini died in 1989. Ali Khamenei, a mid-ranking cleric who, was chosen as the new supreme leader, the following decades and the following decades saw cycles of reform and crackdown. Presidents like Akbar Hashemi Rafisaji focused on reconstruction and pragmatism. Mohammad Kamadi, from 1997 to 2005, promised a dialogue of civilizations, greater press freedom, and women's rights, leading to a brief cultural thaw. But hardliners in the Guardian Council blocked many changes. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's populist presidency from 2005 to 2013 brought defiance on the nuclear issue and harsh international sanctions. And the disputed 2009 presidential election sparked the Green Movement. Huge protests that were violently suppressed. Hassan Rouhani, 2013 to 2021, negotiated the 2015 JCPOA nuclear deal, which temporarily eased sanctions, but President Trump withdrew the U.S. from it in 2018, causing economic pain to return. In September 2022, the death of Mahsa Amini while in morality police custody for improper hijab ignited the woman life. So listen to this. I'll say that again. In September 2022, the death of Mahsa Amini while in morality police custody for improper hijab ignited the woman life freedom protests, one of the largest challenges to the regime in decades, with women publicly removing hijabs and widespread calls for systematic change. Security forces responded with lethal force, killing hundreds. So in September 2022, you might remember a girl in police custody for an improper hijab died, and that blasted these huge um, protests to erupt. The latest wave began, though, in December 2025. Severe economic collapse, the real hitting record lows at around 1.4 million to the dollar amid inflation, sanctions, and mismanagement, triggered strikes and protests triggered price and protests that started among merchants in Tehran's historic Grand Bazaar. Shopkeepers closed their stores in anger over pricing chaos and living costs. The demonstrations quickly spread to other neighborhoods in Tehran and cities across the country, taking on clearer anti-regime tones. Security forces used tear gas, arrest, and violence. Reports documented thousands detained and significant casualties, with some accusations of mass graves and rapid executions from Morabev, which is raging war against God. Moharbe. Tensions escalated further in early 2026. In February, during a period of open conflict with Israel and U.S. involvement, Israeli airstrikes with reported U.S. support targeted Iranian leadership and military sites. In February 28, 2026, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed in one of those strikes in Tehran. The regime declared mourning, but the power vacuum was short. In early March 2026, the Assembly of Experts chose Mohibita Khamenei, son of the late leader and a hardline figure backed by the Revolutionary Guards, as the brand new supreme leader in what was described as a unanimous or near unanimous process. As of April 2026, the Islamic Republic remains in power under Mojtaba Khamenei amid continued economic hardship, regional tensions, and lingering protest anger, though the intensity has varied with internal blackouts and security crackdowns. Right? So, in conclusion, Iran's long history reveals repeating patterns, periods of imperial glory and cultural brilliance, followed by foreign interference, ambitious attempts at modernization from above, popular revolutions or protests, and then new forms of governments that promise justice or independence but often bring their own challenges entirely. The 1950s offered a genuine window of parliamentary democracy and bold oil nationalization under Mossadegh, but foreign backed intervention closed it. The 1970s delivered real economic growth and social freedoms in the cities, yet the authoritarian style and the cultural disruptions helped ignite the massive 1979 revolution. The Islamic Republic succeeded in asserting national sovereignty and creating a strong Shia identity for its supporters, but it has repeatedly faced demands for greater freedoms, economic justice, and accountable government. From the Green Movement to woman life freedom in 2025 2026, bizarre protests. Today, Iranians both inside the country and across the global diaspora continue debating the best path forward, whether through gradual reform, secular democracy, or something else. The resilience of Iranian people through all these eras is pretty fucking remarkable. What are your thoughts on this history? Like, I'm genuinely curious because to me, it is wildly clear that Iran just really liked moving forward a lot and falling back a lot more, or of equal amount. Iran didn't do enough to truly build a base and support system on its way up. It really just it really just did a lot that made people happy in the short term and fucked them in the long term. So I don't know. Iran is an old nation. They have been struggling for decades, hundreds of years. They are over 5,000 years old and they just can't seem to figure it out, even with all the resources they have, like the oil. Um, and their geographical placement is incredible as well. So it's interesting. That's Iran from all the way back then to today. This was an interesting stream. I had fun. I had fun recording this and talking about this. I might be live later with a gaming stream, but I gotta say right here that Iran's story is remarkable, and it's a constant. It's a nation that's always fighting a battle. It's an uphill battle for them every step of the way, no matter what they're doing, and they just need to figure their shit out. They like jumping places too much, and their views amongst the Iranian people are a little too far widespread to be held consistent over longer periods of time, making them very susceptible to mass damage and overthrows. Uh, Altogether, from external powers and internal ones. So Iran is a fucking interesting nation, a very old one, lots of very rich in history. The rulers and people in power are questionable throughout history. It makes you think what it could have been like if shit really didn't hit the fan. 1970s Iran seemed like a relatively beautiful time, especially considering to any other portion or any other part of its existence. But I had a lot of fun talking about this. So if you enjoyed this, drop a like, follow us here on the channel, and check out all our other awesome creations. I might be on with another gaming stream later on tonight. But if not, every Wednesday I do a historical research quest, and I love talking about